Hello guys, welcome back to another video. It's Jesse. Guys, today we're gonna be reacting to 4 true creepy horror stories animated. This is by MJV Animations. His link, the link will be down below. Alright guys, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and just sit back and enjoy. Let's get to it.
I'm a 21-year-old female, and this story took place when I was...
Okay, it's not working. Hold up, I'm trying to fix it. Okay.
I'm a 21-year-old female, and this story took place when I was around 11. I
Hold
remember
on,
this day
fast.
clearly because it was the first time I was ever allowed to walk to school and back by myself. Up until the age of 14, I lived in what we thought was a safe place in Chautauqua County, New York. Everyone knew everyone.
If
you thought you'd get away with something, then you better be prepared to have your ear abused by the time you got home. There was this one day, though. It was a cold winter day, and school unfortunately was still open. So all the neighborhood kids had to walk through knee-high inches of snow just to get to
knee-high
school.
inches?
It took me longer to leave the house, as I was used to walking with my older sister to school, since she knew the routes better than me.
It's crazy.
I always used to make fun of her for being paranoid and taking a different route every day from school, but I learned that was what saved my life. As I was waiting by the door to leave, my mom came up to me and told me that I should ride with her to drop me off, because my sister was too sick to go today. Being a brat, I made a big deal about walking by myself because I'm almost 12 years old, and all my friends' parents let them walk alone.
Okay,
She looked at me for a long while, and then told me to make sure I pay attention to cars. I got hit by a car and almost died when I was 9, so the worry that showed on her face was well warranted.
damn, bro, the heck?
I hurriedly nodded and headed out the
I
door
would
to go
not
to
let her
school.
walk by herself after
My
that.
sister didn't like to dilly-dally, so she was always in a rush to get to school early, but seeing as it was just me, I thought it would be a good idea to take my time. I would play in the brown slush that was on the left side of the road and even make funny-looking snowballs to see how far I could throw them. Halfway to school, I noticed a white van following behind me.
See? That's why, bro.
Being the playful child I was, if I had not been bending down to make another snowball, I wouldn't have noticed it slowly creeping up the street. I told myself I was just overreacting, but I continued more hurriedly to school. Once I got there, I took a quick glance over my shoulder and saw that the van was a few feet behind me.
Call cops.
It wasn't until I was on school grounds that it drove away fast by me. I thought that would be the end of it, but throughout the day, when I would stare out the window, the van would be there. I assumed that it never really left, just parked. Many adults would try to convince me years later that maybe it wasn't the same one, but I knew that it was. This van had a bright yellow smile emoji sticker on it. I couldn't see who was in the van, but through the tinted glass, I knew they could see me. It was now the end of the day, and I wasn't ready to go home. It was too late to call my mom because she was at work and my sister was homesick. I had to suck it up and start walking home. I tried to blend in with a group of kids, but most of them were car riders, and the others didn't live near me. Remembering what my sister told me, I took another route home. I didn't memorize this route clearly, but I decided anything was better than being spotted by that van. I made it to my main street, but realized my mistake too late. The route I took led back to the main street where I walked to school. Hidden behind a row of cars was the white van with a smiley emoji sticker. I tried to stay calm and walk past it, but once I heard the van door slightly click open, I ran. I could hear the rush of 2 pairs of heavy footfalls behind me. They were getting closer, so I did what any normal kid would do. I cut corners. I cut into someone's backyard until I was directly inside of my house and forced myself into the thick snow to make it to the door. My heart was racing, not because I was running, but because I could still hear them behind me. I made it to the door and banged with all my might until someone came to the door. My sister looked confused, but one look in my face and she pulled me inside and locked the doors. The van was still outside. Truthfully, it stayed out there until my brother got home. My sister and I don't talk about it, but we both knew how close it was to me going missing. I haven't thought about this incident in years, but one of my hometown friends showed me an article that came out in 2013. Apparently some men kidnapped and sexually assaulted a girl my age. It wouldn't have scared me as much if it hadn't mentioned the white van.
Alright, let's talk about that one. That was a crazy one, guys. Okay, so what I say is to always carry protection, you know, like a taser, there's just a pepper spray. You guys, you're always gonna have some sort of protection. Alright, let's get to this next one.
So this story happened.
Hold on, try to fix it.
About 11 years ago. I was a senior in high school at the time, but it is the single most mind-boggling thing that I've ever experienced. It's also important to note that it happened in mid-December. I am from Iowa, and the winters here get cold at night. Like, if you get stuck outside, you will die kind of cold. That plus the snowfall makes everything dead silent. You can hear anything and everything inside the house, and even immediately outside of it. Well, my best friend and I were hanging out in my family's walkout basement, just having a boring winter night, playing video games. We were also the only ones home. The reason it was just us is because my mother went from work straight to a bar to grab a few drinks with coworkers. So I and my friend thought it would be a good idea to break into the family wine and live a little.
Well, how would mom go to a bar?
As we were sitting there opening up the first bottle, I heard the door to the garage open and slam shut. I immediately go, oh shit, and start looking for places to hide the bottle.
Just put it back.
My friend then says, I thought you said your mom was supposed to be out all night.
All night?
She was, I replied. I then heard a few heavy stomps and heard my mother yell out, anyone home? I yelled back up the stairs. Yep, just hanging out in the basement. I hear a few more steps move from the garage door towards the stairs, and she yells out again. Can you come help me with something? I need you up here. I reply back while frantically trying to find a good place to hide the wine bottle. Yeah, give me just a minute. And there was silence for about 20 seconds. Anyone down there with you? She yelled back in a more concerned, serious tone, in a voice that was slightly off of my mother's. This was the first thing that told me something wasn't right. Our family never cared if anyone was over, as our house was a very open house to all family and friends. And the voice, it was just wrong. Like it sounded like my mother's, but it was missing something that I couldn't put my finger on. Weirded out, I replied back, yeah, just Colton. And after I yelled that back to her, I found a good place to hide the bottle and began walking up the steps to the next level. Now as I was walking up the steps, I couldn't help but feel the overbearing silence of the house, and the slight electric twinge that something isn't right.
Where's your friend at?
When I got to the top of the steps, I looked over to where the door to the garage is, and also the kitchen right next to it. And it's black. Pitch black. All the lights were off, and there was no moonlight shining through any windows. I walked over to the kitchen yelling out, Mom, where are you? There was no reply, just silence and darkness. I feel the electric twinge turn into full needles, and with my adrenaline kicking in full force, I had to get out of here as fast as possible. My mother was not home.
Damn.
I run back down the stairs, grabbing my coat along the way.
Mimic.
What's wrong? Colton says. My mom's not home. I replied as fast as I can, looking for my truck keys. What do you mean? You were just talking with her. I could now see the confusion in his face. There's no one home. We need to leave now, I said.
Come on, guys, just
I took a few steps towards the back door that opens up to the yard. Then I saw my dog shaking on the couch and my cat growling behind it. I couldn't leave them. I just knew that if we left, something would happen.
Shouldn't it be the
Are we leaving? Colton asked, still confused as hell. No, I can't leave them here alone. Something is really off.
But just take them.
I'm going to call my mom and figure this out. I pull out my phone and call my mom, and she picks up immediately. She asks me what's going on. Mom, were you just home? I heard you yelling for me from the second level, and when I went up, you weren't there. I said frantically, hoping that she was playing a joke.
Bro.
No, I'm just leaving the bar. I wasn't feeling very well. Are you okay? What do you mean you heard me?
Damn, bro. I
fill out the whole story, and she rushes home.
Like,
Colton and I stayed in the basement with the animals until
cat.
she got home. But before she did, you could hear something upstairs. Not walking or sitting on things, but a pressure in the air, like a black hole slowly moving from one room to the next. And the word I would instinctively describe it as is hungry. When she got home, you could feel the thing leave just as quickly as it came.
Okay.
Like an overbearing predatory presence had just flown away. We still have never figured out what the hell was going on, and this is just one story of many unexplainable things that have happened to us. But this is the easiest to write down, and one that I was happy to have a witness. My mother has actually passed away now, and I have moved away to Arizona. Whenever I go back to Iowa and I see Colton, he still gets creeped out by what had happened. I'll never truly know what happened.
Bro, you're being mimicked. Alright, guys, that one was a pretty good one. He heard his mom's voice, but it wasn't really her. Guys, that's crazy. So guys, comment down below. Has that ever happened to say you guys? Have you heard someone call for you and gotta go like, what? And then there's no one there. It happened to me like 1 or 2 times. I don't know. But guys, comment down below if that happened to say you guys. Alright, let's get to this next one. Fix it again. So I have to fix it every time I unpause it or what?
In 2013.
Happened in 2013.
When I was around
When I was around
Yeah,
12.
there.
My mom moved me and my siblings in with my grandparents because we didn't have enough money for rent at the time. And she needed to save.
Damn.
It wasn't a big deal though. They had plenty of room,
No,
and I got to spend a lot of my time jewelry making with my grandma, which in my little eyes was such a win that I didn't even realize we were that poor. It was our little pastime after school, and one of my favorite parts was the trips we would take to Michael's to get beads and materials occasionally.
That's the creepy
Michael's, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is a craft store similar to Hobby Lobby.
Really?
And
thought
walking
Michael's
around
was
in
like
it is a little girl's dream when it comes to DIY stuff. One day in the late fall, we realized that we had run out of wire
No.
for a bracelet that I
thought
was making
Michael's
for my
was
mom.
like a
So we headed out
clothes
to our local Michael's to get some. This particular day was in the winter, so it had already begun to get dark by 5 p.m. My grandma, having vision problems and a bad hip, entrusted little me to run in and grab the wire and pay for it, as we had done so many times together before. I was stubbornly independent, so she wasn't very worried about me. She parked right in the handicap spot in front of the store. The sun was setting and the light from the big
That's
storefront
a big
windows
sun.
illuminating her car behind me as I walked inside. As I was standing by the display at the front, entranced by some Christmas decor or something, a man walked in through the
This
sliding
guy.
doors. I noticed
But
him
I would have told
immediately.
security as soon
It was hard
as,
not
soon as
to.
he walked in.
He was tall, I think. I mean, I may have just been short. Probably in his mid-30s, with dark hair and wearing all black from head to toe.
But I would have told
His
security
clothes
as
were a
soon as he
bit
walked in,
dirty,
like,
and
bro,
I
that
distinctly
guy looks
remember a big red
weird.
D1 logo on his hoodie. He had his hand shoved in his pockets and walked briskly into
Look
the
at how he
store,
walks.
almost frantically.
He's weird or he's weird
I just
already.
watched him. He made eye contact with me for a bit too long and then continued deeper into
Man,
the
like, his
store.
eyes had to calm down.
I was immediately weirded out, but thought nothing else of it, and I went off to find the wire. I found my spool of wire, but getting distracted in the toy section was where I fucked up.
Bro, don't get detected.
That's when I noticed him start to follow me around, aisle to aisle. I would be browsing, and he would just appear at the other end, fake looking at stuff. He was muttering to himself constantly. You know, when someone says something out loud, expecting a response, but they aren't really directly looking at you like that. As a
Well,
kid,
to
you don't really
security,
realize
man,
what's
come
happening
on.
immediately,
What's taking you so
so
long?
I just awkwardly walked away from him, each time, pretending to not notice him.
You should run away.
In my little brain, I reasoned that he wasn't following me, and I walked all the way across the store to the wedding aisle to look at some stuff I had seen when I first walked in.
But just go find your grandma.
I figured there'd be no way
She's
he'd
in the
follow me
car.
there, but sure enough, while looking at the invitation cards, I get a spine-chilling feeling. I turn around, and there he is, right behind me, back to me, doing
What are
something,
you doing?
messing with something in his pants, doing something really vile to himself. I had never seen
Look at that
anything
face,
like
what-
that, and the sunken eyes he looked at me with still haunt me to this day.
Bro, what are you doing?
It took me a minute to process what I had just seen, but once I did, I immediately booked it out of the store as
Yeah, bro,
fast as
you
I
walked
could.
out of there.
Jumping into my grandma's car, she seemed startled by my sudden
Bro, I would have
appearance.
told security.
and
Bro,
asked
come
what
on,
I got.
tell an employee.
Tried to explain what had just happened when I saw him appear in the sliding door in front of us, and the dread I felt in that moment was
Tell
indescribable.
her.
He approached our car, obviously recognizing I was with my grandma, and knocked on her window. I hadn't been able to explain myself in time before she cracked the window and asked him if everything was okay.
Bro, tell her.
The man gestured to me with that same crazy stare and said something along the lines of, "She's a thief. She stole from the store." I was
Bro,
mortified,
tell her where you, bro. Come
on
on.
top of everything else he had just put me through.
Bro.
Thankfully, my grandma got the same vibes I did because she politely told him to back away and rolled the window up while locking the door. He suddenly yanked at the door handle, then swung both his arms up and started banging down hard on the car's
What the-
roof,
what the?
causing us both to jump and me to start crying. My grandma slammed on the reverse and peeled out of there. I've never seen her drive so fast. I don't remember much after that, just the crying and holding a $17 spool of wire in my hands that I hadn't paid for. We called the police as soon as we got home, and luckily they immediately took it very seriously and requested the videotapes from the Michaels. A few weeks later, my grandma told me that they had found him. They mostly left me out of the investigation, besides taking my statement. As to not traumatize me further, I guess. She got the dent in her car fixed, and that
I mean,
was
he got
that.
the dent.
It wasn't until a few years later that my mom finally told me what happened to him. It turns out, he already had 1 battery charge and 2 sexual assault charges on his record. One even being from a minor relative of his. Like his niece or
that
something.
kid, he's not being in jail.
He'd just gotten off work from the gas station across the street, when he must have seen me walk into Michael's alone. I don't know what would have happened if my grandma hadn't locked her door, or if she hadn't been in there with me, vulnerable to that man.
I think she should have told an employee. You know, he probably would have gotten caught way faster. But she probably too is scared too. But guys, if this happened to you guys, I hope not. You should say report it fast. Let's get into this next one. And this is the last one, guys. Of course, I don't want to fix it real quick.
A few years ago, I was a girl in my freshman year
Two sides, hold up. Right, there you go.
of high school. I wanted to make some extra money aside from my job of babysitting, so I looked on Craigslist for
Don't
jobs.
to go to Craigslist and look for jobs.
I found a job for cleaning houses, and it seemed like the best one for
Must
me
be 14,
because it was
right?
something that I could
Kind of
do,
description
and
was
it didn't
that?
require me to be 16 because I was just 14 years
It
old
said
at the
it must be
time.
14.
I responded to the ad, and a man who said his name was Joe got back to me. He asked me a little bit
your name is
about
Joe?
myself, and after answering his questions, he said I could have the job. I was pretty excited to be earning the extra money, and a couple of days later, I started. The man gave me an address, and my mother dropped me off there.
But I would
It
have
was a
talked to
pretty
him
normal
first,
looking
eh? I would have
house
not
in a
dropped off my
normal
kid.
neighborhood. But when I got to the
Go
front
around
door,
back.
it had a sign on it that said, "Go around back." I went to the
Go around
back
back.
to see a man who I assumed was Joe. He came up and introduced
Who the
himself
heck is
to me.
this? Who the heck is this guy? He looks so weird.
Then he told me that this was not the house I would be cleaning, and we walked about 3 blocks until we arrived at
The heck?
another house. This seemed kind of weird
Well,
to me,
I would have
but
known.
I just shrugged it off. He invited me inside and then started giving me instructions on what to clean. After he was done explaining things to me, he said he would be in his office and went downstairs.
Bro, I was like, bro,
I
what
cleaned
else you
for a
have?
little while, and everything was going well. I wanted to open a window to get some fresh air, but when I tried, the window was locked. Then I tried another one, and that was locked as well. I cleaned a little bit more, but I still wanted some fresh air, so I decided to step outside for a minute. But when I tried the front door, it seemed to be locked from the outside.
What the heck?
Joe's office was downstairs, so I knocked on the door to the basement, but there was no answer.
Bro.
I tried the door and it was locked.
Bro, why did they lock this house?
I started to feel uncomfortable and thinking of all the possibilities that could be happening of why Joe kept the doors and windows locked.
Bro, I'll break a window.
I tried my best not to think about it, but I couldn't get the bad thoughts out of my head. I didn't even care about the job anymore. I just wanted to leave at this point. I walked all around the house trying to find
Bro, you
an
gotta break a
exit.
window.
The back door was also locked. I kept looking. I looked at one of the larger windows, but then I saw something.
Like a camera.
When I got closer, I could see that there was a tiny camera pointed at me. Then I heard the basement door open. Joe started calling my name. He asked me what I was doing. I couldn't find a place to hide quickly, so I decided to play dumb. I walked back over to Joe and said that I was just cleaning. He said in a nervous voice that it didn't seem like I was.
There, Joe?
He began to walk a little closer
Who the
to
heck is
me,
this guy?
and then he said I needed to come with him. As soon as he said that, I ran past him as fast as I could and into his basement. I shut the door and locked it. Then I ran downstairs. What I saw down there was 2 computer monitors on a desk with camera angles
Bruh.
displaying every room in the house, including the bathroom. Then I heard a key turning the lock to the
This should
basement
have
door.
before, huh?
I ran to a bathroom downstairs and locked that door
Oh,
and
yeah,
called the police.
yeah.
I heard Joe coming down the stairs. It didn't take long before he got to the bathroom. He started pounding on the door. Luckily for me, he did not seem to have a key to this room, but I knew he would probably be
You guys
capable of
say that
busting
you
down
called
the
the cops.
door. There was a window leading to outside at the top of the bathroom, so I stood on top of the toilet and tried to open it.
Come on, go.
This one was not locked. I climbed out of it as I heard Joe continuing to pound on the bathroom door.
So that was in the basement, right?
I got out and ran as fast as I could to a neighbor's house and banged on their door. An old lady answered and let me in when she saw how I was in a panic. We waited there for the police to show up, but unfortunately when they did, Joe was gone. I showed the Craigslist ad to the police and the text messages with Joe. They were able to track him down and catch him about a week later. I feel very lucky that I was able to escape his house.
Damn. Alright, that was the last one, guys. Alright, so don't go looking for jobs on Craigslist, especially jobs like that. You know, I'll say, like, does the girl have a phone on her? And luckily, the girl did have a phone on her. She called the cops and everything. Yeah, well, guys, but just don't be looking for jobs on Craigslist. I guess I think that was a pretty good one. I like how he tells the stories and stuff. I guess, but guys, that'll do it for today's video. Make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I think the next video, Luis is gonna be back, no? Or the next one, and after that one. The next one, Luis will be back, guys. Alright, so make sure you guys like, share, comment, and subscribe. 300 subscribers, and we'll go to Govan, Washington. Alright, so thank you so much for watching, and peace out, guys.